Welcome to Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs, the podcast that gives you an unfiltered, behind-the-scenes look at what it's really like being a woman in the middle who's over 50 and following her entrepreneurial dreams. Grab a superhero cape, girlfriend, because you deserve one. I'm your host, Master Certified Life Coach and Midlife Mentor, Suzy Rosenstein, and I am excited to inspire you with interviews that feature all of this midlife amazingness. Let's go. Hey there, welcome back to the show. We have a really exciting interview ahead of us about knowing that you're working in your purpose and how that can really light you up. Today, you're going to be meeting Zoe Whitehead, a woman in the middle entrepreneur who's a soul purpose guide and mentor and healer and supports light workers and empaths to step into their highest expression by aligning with lunar cycles. I can't wait to learn more. So welcome to the show, Zoe. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Suzy. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh my gosh, I love your accent. I know we're going to have a great conversation about your midlife entrepreneur story. We're going to be talking about your business, what's going really well, and also what midlife issues might be getting in your way to some extent and are challenging for you in your life as well as being a business owner. So let's get started. Tell us a little bit about how old you are, how long you've been an entrepreneur, your entrepreneurial journey, and especially details about your business. Take it away.
Thanks, Suzy. So I'm 51 and obviously in my perimenopausal phase right now, also an entrepreneur and a spiritual healer and teacher. I've been in this, working in this way for about 12 years now, I think, and slowly sort of building it up. I've been working with a business coach over the last year, and it's been a kind of a big game changer around that. And and just obviously a big empath, so very sensitive to energy, and that's presented its own challenges in itself, but feel very, very passionately about supporting women mainly to reconnect to their purpose and do that by aligning with the lunar cycles and cosmic cycles as well.
Now, you emphasized lunar cycles. So tell us why that is where you really love to work.
Yeah, it's something that I've just been obsessed with really for ever since I can remember. I love the moon. She's a constant in our lives. She's ever present. And as an empath, I have a high sensitivity to energy. And I understand that the moon is one of the biggest cosmic influences on our energy. So we're talking sort of all levels: emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical. And I just got really, really interested in that because I've always worked with women in this capacity. And in particular, women with their own natural female cycle can tend to be aligned to the lunar cycle as well. And the more aligned we are, the easier it is to kind of regulate our energy, regulate our social life, our workload, our workload balance, and all these sorts of things when we really attune to her. And so I found that the structure that the lunar cycle gives us also really helps to just for us to regulate our lives in so many different ways. And she's kind of become the backbone to the work that I do and in the way that I support empaths and light workers like myself to really step into our purpose.
When you said that you were always attracted to the moon, did you mean when you were a kid?
Yeah, definitely. Without really realizing it, I've always sort of been a bit of a stargazer, a moon gazer, and really, I suppose as a child, attracted and captivated by her, but not really understanding the kind of energetics behind all of that either. So yeah, definitely from a kid, and really ever since I can remember.
I love that you said that because I am such a strong believer that what we loved, what was fascinating to us, what we were attracted to as a kid has so many clues to our more passionate, fulfilled life as an adult.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's something, if we think about it as kids, it's something we do without any judgment, we just do it naturally, don't we? And organically. And you're so right, Suzy, in that. And this is something that I often say to my clients as well, is look back. What were you doing? What were the gifts? What were the things that you were naturally inclined to do as a child? Because they will give you clues as to your purpose and why you're here, as an adult.
Absolutely. And when you're talking about your childhood, what is that image that you have with the moon? Were you on a lake? Were you in a backyard? Were you with a camera? What was it with you in the moon?
Yeah, it was just kind of moon gazing. I was always outside as a kid, and just maybe not kind of in the night, as a young child, but I would definitely be moon gazing out the window. And I'd be very connected to nature, very connected. I'd spend a lot of time in trees or under trees, and I realize now it was me connecting to the elements and the elementals and those energies. I felt I could see fairies, and I remember that, and I was very psychic as a child as well, which obviously the moon, when we're very psychically linked, the moon has a big part to play in that as well. So these are the sorts of things that I remember. I was very connected to light beings as well that would always visit me in the night. I would see them at the end of my bed, and I could hear them. And so all of these things used to happen to me as a kid, and it's just the whole thing. I also actually remember flying. I have these visions of me flying, and I know now that they were out of body experiences. And I often chat to a childhood friend of mine. She used to say that, I talked about those sorts of things. I used to say, I was out of my body in the night, and all of these things. So there was definitely a big connection, but like I said, there wasn't that mental understanding. It was just an acceptance, as you do as a kid, don't you? You just kind of get on with it and accept it and just see it for what it is, really.
Oh, that's great. I love hearing about how childhood is connected to things we're doing now. It's so good. Now, one of the things I asked in the notes was, where you get stuck a little bit in your business, or what's something that you really wish was a little different than it is. And you mentioned self-doubt. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, for me, working as a spiritual entrepreneur, so obviously in the spiritual arena, for me, it's all been about really finding my purpose. Because when I first started my work, I thought, I'm going to actually be supporting children, because I was a teacher in mainstream. I taught languages in a secondary school. And I had this natural affinity with children. There were a lot of children that were anxious. And when I kind of peeled away from school, and I thought, I want to set up my own, and I want to work more in the energy with techniques and mindset and all these sorts of tools. At first, I assumed it would be with children and teenagers. And then I quickly realized that it wasn't that. It just didn't really happen or unfold. And then I started to set up women's circles in my living room. How it just kind of, it just kind of evolves, doesn't it? As you evolve, I guess. And so I started that, and I had women that were coming, and then we started to get really aligned to the lunar cycles and the energies. And I thought, well, it's all about empaths, supporting women who are very sensitive. And basically what was happening, Suzy, was that I didn't really know myself. I didn't, I just kind of had these leanings. I had these interests and these passions, but it just took me so long to get to where I am now. And I really felt that what it was self-doubt, holding myself back and not being able to claim who I am. And that was, that has been a massive obstacle to me getting to where I am and really owning my purpose and my place in the world. So it was difficult, really difficult.
It can be, but it sounds like you've made some progress.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, I hope more than some, but yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. It's just, and for me, being a spiritual entrepreneur, I realize as well how, it's having a business to me is like spiritual growth. You grow so much through it. It is a journey of self-discovery, and it is about you finding out who you are, and showing your uniqueness and daring to show who you are on all these different platforms. And I don't know about you, but I've never, apart from the modality that I trained in, which is transference healing, everything that I do is soul led, it's purpose led, it's my stuff. I don't talk about what other people have told me to talk about. And so for me, it was this big empowerment process that was around that, so that, I could really step into who I was becoming and show the world who I was. And there was so much self-doubt around that shrouded me and stopped me and really held me back from just showing up, and saying, this is me, kind of thing. It's definitely a whole journey that I had to go through to get to where I am now. And it's not been easy. It really hasn't.
It's absolutely a journey. Sometimes I feel like that we want a permission slip. It's like, well, if you would just give me a permission, can I really show up this way? Can I really trust my ability to help people? Is it okay? Am I allowed to do this? Am I allowed to have this much fun while I'm working? It is a very different thing. And I think for midlife women, I'm not saying it doesn't happen to other women, but for midlife women, we really grew up in a very different way than people grow up now, than women grow up now. So I do think giving yourself not responsibility, but the authority, the permission to empower yourself that way, it's a beautiful thing. So well done. So you said that, you also said that sometimes that there's so much work to do. You came here to do this work, but you do wonder sometimes about what you're physically able to handle, and sleep is such an issue for so many of us. So how does that come up for you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel, Suzy, like I'm definitely in my perimenopausal phase now, but I know I've been in that without really realizing it for quite a few years. So kind of the hot flushes and horrendous night sweats that I had, and the kind of that sleeplessness is kind of diluting now. And I feel I'm really am towards the end of that, and probably hitting menopause, but I should imagine quite soon, because I don't know, it just doesn't feel as prevalent now. But when I was going through it, was probably up until about a couple of years ago, where really my sleep was very impacted. Yeah, I'd get really tired, but also, it's funny, isn't it? When we work as entrepreneurs, one thing that I really love about this is that you really are in charge of your own timings. Obviously, you've got like coaching clients and lives and things like that, but for the most part, I can take like a morning off, I can sleep, I know I can work again in the evening. So, when I compare myself to friends who work, in corporate, or maybe I've got a lot of friends who are nurses for some reason, for them, it's really difficult. If they have a sleepless night or whatever, they have to be 100% functioning. It doesn't matter if they've got brain fog, they've got to make those snap decisions. I don't have any of that. And so for me, in terms of that, it has been easier to manage. But the one thing I did struggle with, though, with the lack of sleep, when I think back now, is I used to get really frustrated in the night, because I'd be up for not out of bed, but I'd be awake for a good sort of hour or two in the night. And occasionally that still happens. But the one thing that I found really helped was for me to just go with it. So I'd be in bed and instead of fighting it, I'd be like, right, I'm going to use this time now to run a bit of light down my body. I'm going to do a bit of visioning work, and all of that I could just do in the bed. I could just do a sleep, lying down, and eventually I'd go back to sleep. So that wasn't too disruptive. And like I said, because of the way we were, as I'm sure you'll appreciate, I could kind of just nap if I had to during the day, and just work maybe in the evenings and do whatever I had to do later, or so it was, in a way, that wasn't too bad for me.
And it's getting better now, which is really great.
It is, yeah. It is. When I look back, it's yeah, definitely the sleeping, and I feel like my symptoms are definitely lessening for sure. Yeah, in fact, it's more emotional. The physical side of things have kind of lessened, but it's more the emotional side that I'm struggling with now. It's like I've had the physical, now it's the emotional,
And how's the emotional part coming up?
Oh, wow. So what I'm noticing is the anxiety, which I didn't seem to have. It wasn't as prevalent before. And, like I said, I have a sensitivity to energy. So I know that over the moon cycle, I'm very impacted by that. So in the dark to new moon phase, it's quite an intense time for us anyway. And we can feel quite anxious and questioning. And for me, it just seems to have, it's just a lot. I notice it a lot more. But it's that kind of, well, okay, this is going to pass. I know what it is. And, I found a way really to dance with that and navigate that and not buy into that so much. And but yeah, that emotional side has definitely taken the forefront now, and there's self-doubt that rises regularly.
Sure.
As when we're entrepreneurs, it's we're looking, we're hoping to magnetize clients and soul align clients and people that we would really, really love to work with. And sometimes that doesn't always happen. I definitely notice a correlation between whether I'm in a good space or not. And that kind of seems to directly ripple out in the community, like the engagement drops down. I don't have as many clients booking in, and it's all of that. And it's just like, oh gosh, because it's hard. You're going through your stuff, and you see a direct kind of correlation and impact on what's going on in the business. And, you've got to kind of navigate all of that, haven't you?
Yeah, so it's so in a way, though, it's so interesting because energy is what your business is all about. So it makes, I don't know, if you could learn to be grateful for being pushed into having to become a really equipped professional to really help people in this way, because you're so practiced. I loved when you said dance with the moon. And that is such a beautiful visual for me. You're thinking about it as coping, but when you said dance with the moon, I just thought, oh, that's so beautiful.
Yeah, for me, it's been like this practice of, for me, my emotions and my emotional body is very much part of me. It's a beautiful part of me. And, we are emotional beings. We're here to feel things. And so as a younger adult and as a kid growing up, I was someone who was very easily overwhelmed emotionally. But through the work that I've been doing, I've learned through the years and through the wisdoms that we acquire to really navigate my emotions, not to push them away, but just to sit with them, to accept them, to even lean into them, but not attach that emotion, the mental body into them, just really just being okay with not being okay. I've just learned to do that. And, they then don't become part of my narrative so much, and like I said, I dance with them, because every day probably I've got something coming out, like this morning I felt a bit of anxiety. There was no reason for that, but it's, we're just here to feel these things, and it's here kind of give us messages about how those emotions are flowing through our body as well, and how the energy is flowing through our body. And when we block on them, and when we give our power away to them, it kind of takes us away from our center. That's something that I've really understood, is how much I kind of, if we really allow ourselves, we can get so carried away in that. And like I said, our energy, our frequency kind of drops, and we see that ripple effect out in our reality, in our business. And it's it's an interesting thing. And like I said, it's just such a blessing really to work like this, because it keeps you accountable. You really have to be hyper aware of how you're feeling and what you're telling yourself, and and it strengthens that your emotional kind of body, doesn't it, when we work more in this way?
Definitely. Another thing you mentioned that I'd love you to talk about a little bit, you said that you've recently decided to be more self-boundaried. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. So as an empath, and obviously having a sensitivity growing up, this was something that I really, really struggled with, because we kind of pick up on other people's struggles. Obviously, it's almost like you become an emotional reader. And I really struggled, as most empaths will totally understand this, is that I lacked discernment. So I would never know what I was feeling, whether it belonged to me or to somebody else. And so I spent most of my teenage years, and I remember this so well, trying to patch up and people fix and people please. And I felt the dynamics between my parents. Like I felt people's struggles, and when I was in school, it was just so oh my goodness, it was so hard for me. So I spent most of that time under the radar, and like I said, kind of fixing and doing stuff so that everyone was okay. And it was just exhausting and depleting, and that went on into adulthood as well. And obviously I was married, and we've got 2 kids, we've got 2 teenage boys. And then since doing this work, I realized how depleting it is to be doing and continuing to do this people fixing and people pleasing behaviors.
Yes.
And I've really had to peel back from that. And I think it was mainly my kids that taught me that, that I realized that, I quickly realized that if you're always running after them and not allowing them to make their mistakes and learning from their challenges, they're just not going to grow. They're not going to learn what they have to learn, and they're not going to move forwards with that. So they've really been my biggest teachers, unwittingly. And it's something that I feel very passionately about. And so I have become very boundaried, very gently boundaried, but boundaried nonetheless. So, if I'm not in a good space, I tend to kind of keep away. I absolutely hold a space for clients, friends, family, whatever, but I'm also very aware of my needs first and foremost. I know that if I'm not in that good space, I can't support, right? I can't, my vibration is lowered, and so it's something that it's kind of a non-negotiable practice for me now. I know what I need, I know myself very well.
That's so good. So where do you see the business going? Like, if you could wave your magic wand and think a couple of years ahead, what are your goals?
Yeah, so I have a membership, so my Lunar Light Worker membership. So I'd really like that to be a lot more expansive.
Is that's like your signature program?
Yes, sorry, it's my signature program. So it's it's a place where light workers can come and empaths can come, and we meet weekly, and we align to the lunar cycle. So this is something that I really, really want to grow and develop, which is why I'm now working with a beautiful soul-led coach. We're just steadily working on that and working on developing that and getting that more out there. But that's really my dearest wish, is that really becomes, this main signature program. And from the back of that, have more coaching clients, one-to-one coaching clients.
That's terrific that is all set up and ready to go.
Yeah.
So as a woman over 50, what has been the most surprising thing about being an entrepreneur at this age stage?
Well, I suppose because, like I explained, it's been such a long process for me to finally step into who I feel I am and what I'm meant to be doing, the work I'm meant to be doing. And there was this whole thing for me around, I almost felt like I was starting again, nearing my 50s.
Would you say that was the most surprising part, that it took a long time, or that you even needed to do that work?
Yeah. For me, it's, I see it as my awakening. It was such a long process for me because I put the brakes on. There was so much fear around that.
Right. I see.
And and then there's this kind of all these misconceptions around 50s. I don't know. I was like, I should be slowing down. And for me, I've had to really work through that. And just, I guess the most surprising thing now is being able to embrace that newness, embrace that complete change at this age, and thinking, well, actually, there is no age, is there really? I still feel like the same woman, just because I'm 50, 51, it really, you quickly realize that actually, what does it matter? We have all these kind of constraints, don't we, that we quickly realize are foundless, really baseless. If you want to go and do it.
If you're curious, you have to really be aware that they're beliefs, that they're optional. It is so interesting about aging and work and those ideas. Now, I know you also mentioned becoming more visible in your business and with your podcast is a bit challenging. How does it show up as a challenge for you?
To run the podcast, or just the kind of the business?
Becoming visible in your business and in the podcast.
Yeah, it's just this uniqueness, Suzy, I'm quite a shy person, I always have been. And, as being an entrepreneur, we're on those platforms, aren't we? There's no hiding.
You could try, but it doesn't work.
Well, it doesn't. You're not going to get anywhere, are you?
Right.
It's like it would be like if you had a little shop in the desert or something, and there's no footfall. You could have amazing ideas, but if you're not out there, getting yourself out there, it's I had a whole thing around that. Although I do love chatting and I love teaching, and I really come into my own, I feel like a pig in mud when I'm teaching. I am quite shy, essentially. And it was just about this. At first, it was about bringing out my uniqueness and going, hey, this is me, this is all of me, and just sharing myself out there. Definitely put me through a process at the beginning. I'm really used to it now. Also, I suppose I don't know, I know it's probably going to sound a bit strange, but I'm someone who doesn't really wear makeup, and I'm very relaxed. I don't go into all the kind of, really looking really, really beautiful, because there's so many beautiful women out there. And I think I did go for a bit of a process of comparisonitis as well, because I'm very natural, and and there's so many young, beautiful women out there, that
It's funny the way you're talking about it, as if you're not one of those beautiful women. And I'm sitting here in my Zoom square going, geez, she looks great to me.
Oh, bless you. Thank you, my love.
And she's got the cool accent.
Well, that forgives all these little things. But it's just, and just coming away from the filters, I do use one for my reels, but after that, I try and, I want to be authentic, because that is me. I'm very natural and real, and I don't mind sharing my, my rawness and things that I've struggled with. And so it kind of was part and parcel of the image that went with that, and just accepting that, look, this is me without makeup, I've got gray hairs and I've got wrinkles, and so it's just showing you, isn't it? And being okay with that,
Exactly. Yeah. And it really does force us as an entrepreneur dealing with digital stuff. It's a huge opportunity. I mean, we don't have to pick up the phone and do cold calling anymore, right?
No.
So, but on the other hand, it really does force your hand a little bit to come to terms with your comfort level with what's available. And if you're not comfortable being visible, you really have to prepare yourself to answer a hard question. Then how are you going to get yourself out there? So I think you talked about that in a way that's very easy to understand, for sure. So tell us, Zoe, how can people best get in touch with you?
Well, so probably at Instagram, Suzy, we were just talking about me earlier on. So I'm at Lunar Light Worker on Instagram, and that's probably where I do most of my shares, all of my vulnerables. And so it would be lovely if you wanted to come and connect with me on there. And then obviously from there you can find out more about the Lunar Light Worker podcast and the services that I offer.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Zoe. Thank you for really taking the time out of your day. This was a really nice, relaxed interview. I appreciate it. Your authenticity about managing self-doubt and also being so aligned with your purpose was really appreciated too. I totally love what you're doing. You're amazing. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you, Suzy. It's been really lovely to be on here. Thank you.
All right, that's it for now. If you're listening and loving what you hear, please like and subscribe. Reviews are great too and much appreciated. And if you're a woman in the middle who's 50 or over and an entrepreneur and would like to also come on the show, please go to www.midlifeinterviews.com and fill out an application. We'd love to have you on to share your story. Thanks so much for listening. It is never too late for you to put yourself on your agenda. I'm Suzy Rosenstein, and I'll talk to you soon. Now, real quick before we say goodbye, if you are connecting with this show, I'd love to invite you to a happiness breakthrough coaching session. It's my laser-focused coaching call that will help you get clear about what's getting in your way as a woman in the middle entrepreneur and confident about your next steps to more happiness in your next chapter. Head over to www.nextchapterbreakthrough.com. Talk to you soon.